Welcome to the ADCLOD Podcast series with Social Impact Founders, an initiative by the Ashank Desai Centre for Leadership and Organisational Development at IIM Ahmedabad, where we document and celebrate the leadership journeys of India's homegrown social entrepreneurs who have built impactful institutions from the ground up. In today's episode, we have the privilege of speaking with Ramji Raghavan. He was educated at Rishi Valley School, Delhi University and London Business School. In 1998, while he served as a Vice President of Mergers and Acquisitions at Citibank, he made the remarkable decision to leave a distinguished career in international finance and return to India to ignite curiosity in the country's most underserved children. In 1999, he co-founded Agastya International Foundation in Bangalore with the mission to spark curiosity, nurture creativity, and instill confidence in economically disadvantaged children and government school teachers. What began with a 172-acre barren plot of land in Kuppam, Andhra Pradesh, with the intention to establish a school, turned into a mobile science lab. The shift was born out of necessity when the money to build buildings ran out. However, today it has grown into one of the world's largest hands-on mobile science education programs. Agastya operates across 19 Indian states with over 190 mobile lab vans, 130 labs on bikes, 135 science centers, and 500 night village school centers. It has directly reached over 41 million children and 250,000 teachers, and is on its course to reach 100 million children by 2032. Ramji is an Ashoka Fellow, a recipient of Google Global Impact Award, and was felicitated by Chelsea Clinton for Agastya's global commitments. Ramji, welcome to our podcast, and it is a true honor to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Neharika. It's a pleasure to be here, to be talking to you today.
So we'll start off, Ramji, by really getting a picture of Agastya today. Its scale, the range of its programs, campuses, mobile infrastructure, because you have a very interesting format. You have vans, you have bikes, you have night schools. What does Agastya do and how does it do it?
So as you said, our mission is to spark curiosity, nurture creativity, instill confidence, a spirit of caring in disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged school children and school teachers and headmasters across India. And the way we're doing it is we have this 172-acre campus creativity lab that has about 16, 17 experiential learning centers. So it's all about hands-on experiential learning, because we find that's the best way of sparking curiosity and nurturing creativity and building confidence. So over the years, this campus, which was barren wasteland, has turned into an ecological preserve. There are some 600 species of plants, shrubs, and herbs, and so on. And there's a lot of learning, therefore, about nature and ecology on the campus. And we've built a lot of experiential centers for science, mathematics, arts, design thinking, and innovation. There's a center for creative learning, Agastya Vidyachal Academy for school teachers and headmasters, and very kind of school for schools. It's not a school, so we bus in about 600, 700 children every day, and they experience something that they just don't get in their schools, in the government schools. Actually, it's not even available in most private schools.
Correct.
It's a very impactful, liberating kind of learning experience. Then the outreach consists of all these vans. So we have mobile science vans, mobile innovation labs, increasingly mobile AI on wheels, digital labs that go around 24 states in India, and labs on motorbikes, which is a lower cost version of the mobile science van to increase reach to more remote areas. And then these night village schools, about 500 of them, where typically we train a local village student, usually in school, 16, 17, 18-year-old, or even a college student who lives in the village, to run a night school every day.
I see.
based on the Agastya way of experiential learning. And then we do a lot of programs through satellite TV. There's digital programs. So if you combine all that together, we're now reaching about 8 million children, combination of in-person, remote, digital, across India.
Wow.
So in a sense, it's become the world's largest creativity laboratory.
Wonderful. So these 600, 800 children who come every day, is there a period for which they come? Like, do they come for a whole month or do they come for one day? How does that work?
Yeah, typically they come for a day, but they repeat visits about 8 to 10 times a year.
Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of catchment schools. We schedule their visits, working with the schools, and each child from, say, 5th grade to 10th grade would come to the campus 8-10 times a year.
Wonderful. And these schools are government schools, affordable public schools, or any school?
These are government schools, but in addition to that, we have a program called Bandhu or Camps at Campus, and we get schools from private schools, kids from private schools in Bangalore, Bombay, Chennai, and other places, Hyderabad. They come and spend a week, 5 days, experiencing the campus, and that's a different kind of program. Vast majority of students who come are from local government schools. And then we get school teachers who come from across India, about 3,000 teachers every year to the campus for training.
Wow, that's amazing. And so how many full-time staff does Agastya have? Because what you're saying requires a large number of staff.
Yeah.
And you said you're in different states of India. So how do you manage such a distributed staff in that sense?
Exactly. So it's very distributed. Full-time, we must be, about 1,500 staff.
Okay.
Plus, we have these part-time teachers in the villages, another 100. So it's nearing about 2,000.
Wow.
And then we have about 20,000 college students whom we train to teach, and they are volunteers. We don't pay them. So if you like, the mission force of Agastya is about 22,000, which 2,000 we pay, 20,000 do it for a certificate. We don't pay them. They're pure volunteers. How do we manage? It's like, any organization, you have to decentralize responsibility. So we have teachers, about 800. Actually, if you include the village teachers, 1,300 teachers, who are teaching day in and day out. Some of them are stationary in a science center. Many of them are in the mobile vans or motorbikes. I call them igniters. So it's a combination of an igniter and an educator. Then they report into area managers.
Okay.
The area managers reports into the region manager. So it's kind of we call them chief experience officer, the region manager. And the region manager, then general manager, reports to the head of operations. So it's, an organizational structure with a lot of delegation. And is it easy to manage? No, because it's very distributed and spread out. There are some districts where we may have just 2 or 3 employees.
Right.
Some others we may have 20 or 30. But that's the nature of the beast. So we have to find ways of managing that. And over time, we've created the systems and processes to ensure quality. There's a quality assurance program. There's a roving team of master trainers. We call them catalyzers, about 70 of them, who travel continuously around the country, observing classroom sessions and giving feedback. So it's kind of real-time quality assurance. So these are the ways we kind of manage the organization on a day-to-day basis.
And how easy is it to attract people to work with you? And once they are there, how is it possible to keep them for long, or do you get a lot of churn? So
we
what
get
happens?
a lot of churn, especially at the level of the frontline teacher. And that's because, it's constant mobility. And not everyone is willing to do that. They prefer to go to an office and stay put, Whereas here in a mobile van, you're visiting 20 schools every year, 8-9 times a year. So a lot of travel, the heat and dust and all that has a lot of physical wear and tear. So there is a fair amount of churn. Now, how do we manage that? Well, it depends how you look at it. See, Agastya's goal is not to hog talent and monopolize talent.
Right.
Our aim is to positively infect the system, right? So we actually would welcome a certain amount of churn, because what that means is people have been influenced by our way of teaching and learning, which we think is very important. And we would rather they go out into the broader system and take these skills with them.
Right.
So if our teachers get into the government school system where there's more security, all power to them. So in a sense, we look at our people as resources that we can train, we can motivate and excite, and have a certain number of them go out into the larger system and make an impact, right? So churn is a negative in the obvious sense. You have to train, retrain people and so on. But if you look at it in a broader sense, it's a positive thing. It's like a university. You don't want all your students to hang around the university after 3, 4, 5 years. You know, you want them to go out.
Absolutely.
So that's the way I look at it. In terms of how we attract talent, it's always a struggle, but we put out advertisements, we reach out to B.Ed colleges, and now we've developed a national reputation. So it's easier than it used to be in the early years when it really, really difficult. And what do we look for? You see, we hire people. They're not the products of Delhi University or the IITs and the IIMs and so on. Such people would not be prepared to go out in a mobile lab throughout the year. So we get people from second and third tier colleges, many of them from small towns, villages, and so on. So what we really look for is people with a BEE degree. And yes, they have the BSc or the MSc and so on. But we look for BEE. And it's not Bachelor of Electrical Engineering. It's Bachelor of Energy and Enthusiasm. So we look at young people who have the energy and enthusiasm, who want to make a difference in their village, town, or community. And fortunately, there are many people like that because they've been through a rather rigid, inorganic educational experience. And they're exposed to Agastya's very flexible, organic way of learning. And they feel, you know, this is the way I should have learned. So this is something I need to communicate and bring to bear in the schools from the area that I come from. So many of them, if you use the traditional Maslow's hierarchy, while money is important, roti, kapra, makan and all that, they're really motivated by a higher purpose.
Right.
They want to make a difference. So that's the reason why people do stay on with us. The other is they get a lot of freedom. When you're in a mobile van, there's no one breathing down your neck on a day-to-day basis.
Sure.
So they have a sense of freedom and independence. So while there is churn because of these other factors, people might get better jobs, better paying jobs.
Sure.
Claim to pay the highest. Although we pay very decent wages, it's not the highest. So they go. But then a lot of them stay on because they feel that this is allowing them to make meaningful impact for a decent wage. There is security in Agastya, there's progression, and there's a lot of freedom.
Wonderful. So there are other things that you attract them with. Wonderful. And the since we are talking about people at this point of time, how do you keep them trained? Like, how do you skill them, and how do you continue to have them upskilled? Because as you rightly said, a lot of the graduates possibly who come to you haven't learned the way you want them to be teaching. And then, you know, so one is the first training and then also the upskilling through the years.
So the sort of onboarding, once somebody comes in, they are actually thrown right into the job.
Okay.
Because our philosophy is learning by doing. And there is a senior person who will supervise them and correct them and, you know, do some hand holding. But there's a lot of you learn by doing things, okay? Because that's our philosophy, experiential. It's not too much theory and book knowledge and so on. Go and make it happen kind of thing.
Okay.
So after a few weeks of that, they're then brought to our campus where twice a year we have formal training programs. Even here, it's very experiential. We have senior Agastya staff, resource persons who come and train them. but they do things. They learn by doing. So if it's a science concept, they actually see it, they touch it, and they are encouraged to do experiments. We encourage them to ask a lot of questions. So questioning is a very important skill. They learn about classroom management, about the importance of caring. So all of that goes on in campus. Then they go back and they're fully immersed in their jobs. We have these catalyzers that I mentioned earlier, who roving team of real-time trainers. So a catalyzer will walk into a class and observe one of the igniters and write down his or her observations, in some cases even take a short video. And then in the middle of the day or at the end of the day, give the igniter feedback on what he or she observed, of how they were performing. And so the feedback becomes real-time, if you like. Real-time feedback is very powerful as opposed to offline. So the philosophy is experiential, learn by doing, real-time feedback, encouraging a lot of questioning, emphasizing that, relationship is at the core of this, the relationship between the igniter and the student. And we have actually looked at a classroom, how it evolves. And we've looked at research on cognitive science, how children absorb knowledge or ideas. And we've designed the classroom section keeping these things in mind. So there's something called a super start and a super finish, because, the first 15 minutes of a 45-minute class is the time when the mind is most absorptive. It's prime time. And then apparently it goes down a bit. And then there's a prime time in the last 10, 15 minutes. So we've designed our intervention in a way that sort of fully leverages cognitive research.
Wonderful.
And in terms of upskilling, constantly exposing. So one of the things is we have become an innovation engine. I would argue that in terms of innovation, we are right up there by world standards. So when you constantly innovate, one of the byproducts of that is your staff are almost forced to learn how to deliver the new innovation.
Sure.
Right? So you're constantly upskilled because there's an innovation engine. So if we have created something on nature-centric learning, that we say we need to do that, the staff now has to start learning that in order to achieve it. So it's an experiential, innovation-powered, continuous upskilling process.
Perfect. Yeah. Also, two questions around the context itself. At least I know two individuals in the country who have done a lot for, let's say, creative science education. For example, Professor Arvind Gupta, or the Center for Creative Learning at IIT Gandhinagar. Do you partner with them, or?
We have a good relationship with IIT Gandhinagar. I know Arvind personally over the years, and we have actually, I think he's visited our campus. We have sent people for training to Arvind.
Sure.
On low cost, creativity, sparking, learning methodologies. Absolutely. We try to stay as open as possible to new ideas. See, Agastya was built especially in the early years, the first 10 years. We didn't have the kind of resources we have today. So it was really, I brought together a lot of scientists and educators.
Right.
Many of them retired from the DRDO, TIFR, Atomic Energy, and places like that, IIS. They were keen to help. And so a lot of the initial stuff that we created was actually done by these people.
Right.
So, we have a very open attitude that way, whether it's environmentalists and ecologists who came and helped regenerate the land on campus. A lot of them did this work pro bono. They didn't charge a penny.
Perfect.
So a lot of it was done with such partnerships and collaborations.
Absolutely. It says it's always said it takes a village to raise a child. And of course, for an organization, it's more than a village.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very nice. My last question around this whole thing is also from some of the work that we have done or we've heard about. The school system sometimes is very resistant to incorporating something like this. And therefore, sometimes, so how have you managed that resistance, or how have you managed the fact that you're able to go back to the schools, run a class, and so on and so forth?
So in fact, the chief secretary of a large state once told me why his government has signed up with Agastya. And he said the reason is if you come in with something very disruptive, you're creating fear and resistance.
Correct.
Now, a lot of what we do in Agastya is aligned with the school curriculum. Now, how we teach it may be radically different, but the concepts and the curriculum are very closely aligned. So there isn't a problem there. The second thing is that it is scalable. So if you go to a senior government official and say, I've got this new idea, give me a chance to pilot it within the school system. He or she is saying, okay, but I'm in charge of the education of 10 million children. Is this potentially scalable?
Right.
Now, a lot of what we do is highly scalable. Okay.
Right.
So the government responds at a top level very positively and says, this is aligned to our school curriculum. It's highly scalable. Then you look at the pedagogy and invariably, see the sense is, for instance, you see this here. It's a top.
Yes.
Put it on a surface, it sits on its bottom.
Correct.
Spin it, it will tip over and sit on its stem.
Yes.
It's very counterintuitive. Okay. It's so surprising that anyone who sees this, 9 out of 10, maybe 9.5 out of 10 people, when they see this, their mind is awakened. They say, "Arey, ye kaise hua?" Because it's unexpected.
Correct.
So that is the And then if you want to find out why it happens or how it happens, in this case, it's not that trivial.
Right.
It's a creative learning process, which is the aha. Finally, this one is a toy, so it naturally lends itself to a lot of play. You create the ha-ha. So everything we do, we assess and say, is there an aha, and ha-ha? If that is there, then no human being can resist it.
Yes.
Especially the and the ha-ha.
Ha-ha. Yes.
Aha requires work.
Yes.
Because aha means investigation, learning, frustration, bottlenecks, all that, till you experience the aha effect. But the is the surprise and the ha-ha is the fun.
Joy. Yeah.
Joy. So we use a lot of such things. And I've seen, over the years, gray-haired teachers who have seen it all and who are jaded respond very differently when we bring in this kind of engagement. So this is the seduction that is very important in how you bring to life what you're doing in the classroom. If you have the element strongly embedded in your pedagogy, then you get a very different reaction than you would from, a normal way of doing things. So teachers have come to our workshops and said, we've been to teacher training workshops for the last 30 years. This is the first one where we really had fun and we learned something and it's really woken me up.
Right.
That's how you engage and that's how you get people to call you back.
And the foot in the door. Yeah, absolutely.
The foot in the
Yeah. So amazing. I think the aha and the ha-ha is so deep and yet so evocative in a way. So I really like that way of putting it together. Very nice. All right. So let's now move a little bit away from the pedagogy and all of that to you as a person. Like you left a career in international banking and you came to something that is so elementary, but yes, so powerful. So what led you to make this leap?
It's like anything. Sometimes these things evolve over a period of time. When I was a school student at Rishi Valley, I read a couple of books. One was called Lost Horizon, about a mythical Himalayan kingdom called Shangri-La. And another was The Glass Bead Game by Hermann Hesse, about a school on a rooftop and all these creative kids. So I sort of combined these ideas and I said to myself, as I was growing older, it'll be nice to live in a place like Shangri-La, maybe mythical, but maybe one can create it. And I was very interested in creativity. I can't claim to have been very creative at school. But I used to listen to J. Krishnamurti speak every year. He would visit. He talked about the importance of questioning, observing, yes, internally, your own psyche, but it could be applied to the external world and the creative experience and so on. So, this took root in my mind and my heart. And more recently, I read a book, I forget the name, on creativity, and it said that a lot of people who are either creative or who help build creative learning environments experience when they are young something called a paracosm. And apparently the paracosm is when you're young, typically before the age of 20, typically. You create an imaginary world and you keep populating that imaginary world as you grow older. And apparently that takes deep root in you and you can't let go of it. And it suddenly gave me the insight that that's really what happened to me. I became a victim of my imaginary world. And so even if I want to let go of it, it's not about being passionate. It's about, that's the for me, right? So these factors influence me. And of course, Krishnamurti at a fundamental level made you question the meaning of life, the purpose of life. And as I grew older, I told myself I'm doing very well in finance. I'm ambitious. My father retired as the CEO of a number of companies. I wanted to be like him. And he even told me when I was younger that I'd make a very good CEO. And that filled me with a lot of confidence. But then, so I was living in, there's the imaginary world, there's the world of banking and competition and all that. And I told myself, while the world of banking and competition, I was fully involved in it mentally, but my heart was not in it. My heart was in my imaginary world. And then I told myself also I was beginning to discover that I didn't want to report to anyone. I wanted freedom. If I didn't feel like getting up in the morning to go to work, I should have that freedom. I shouldn't be forced to go because I'm on a salary. I have to report to the CEO and all that. So aversion to routine became a big thing. My imaginary world, meaning of life kind of thing. I reconnected with an old friend in London, a very spiritual person, who when I was in LBS, a year his junior, had told me that I might want to become a CEO. And this is when I was in my early 20s. But that was not my karma. And he told me, that's not your nature. And I disagreed vehemently with him. And he said, you can disagree, but I'm telling you, that's not your nature. You will end up doing something very different. And so he was, right on the money. So when I reconnected with him, he said, look, I'm telling you, the angst you're going through, I spotted 18, 20 years earlier. So then, it's like a lot of us go through this. I don't claim to be unique. But in my case, I felt if I'm on my deathbed, I don't want to look back and say, hey, Ramji, you should have tried this out, and have this kind of regret. And of course, it was a big, big move. In fact, I remember being held up at gunpoint in Puerto Rico one day in a restaurant. And I thought I was going to die. It's a big story. But anyway, at the end of it, I was going to stand up and tell this guy, look, I have no enmity towards you. I'm sure you don't towards me. And do you want to send me back to India, to Madras, where my parents were then living, in a casket to my mother? But when I thought back, I realized that when the chips were down, my life was on the line. I wasn't thinking about my career at Citibank or my bank balance or that I wanted to become the CEO. I was thinking, in my case, about my mother.
Absolutely.
So I said, look, it helped clarify that when the chips were down, none of this mattered. So probably it's not that important. So do what you feel you would like to do. But of course, there was a big decision that your income is going to go very close to zero and you lose out on a lot of other benefits of the corporate life. There's no free lunch. So I had to take the call and I said, let's plunge and do it.
Very nice. That's the only way, I guess, to do some of these things. So you, as an organization, partner with Rakesh Jhanjhanwala's foundation, the government bodies, IIMs, IITs, international institutions like Harvard and Lehigh Union College. So it's a lot of stakeholders to manage, a lot of funders, a lot of partners to manage. So just want to understand, how do you do it? Are there any lessons for us to take from there, or anything, how it has really shaped you?
So how you do it is you have to have a very open and porous mind, okay, and a questioning mind. And the organization should be open, porous, and questioning. So if you're questioning with an open mind, you're willing to embrace diversity and strangeness.
Okay.
So what you say is, this is my vision, this is my mission. Now, how I get there, the paths can vary. And I have to be very open about it. I shouldn't be rigid and inflexible. So when you start that way, you begin to explore partnerships and collaborations at multiple levels. And you see how they can fit in. You have to have the skill of synthesizing all this, which comes with practice. So the beauty about running an organization like Agastya is one day I could be sitting with somebody like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, who sadly passed away a few years ago, or his wife now, Rekha, who's on our board.
Okay.
He's a billionaire in Bombay. The next day I could be interacting with a village school kid in Jharkhand or in Andhra Pradesh. The next day I could be with a senior bureaucrat or a politician. And then I could get a call from somebody at the IISc or the Institute of Management. So the conversations tend to be very different, right? Because each one comes with a very different perspective. But you see that they're all stakeholders in what you're doing. And they're all interested for different reasons in how you do what you're doing. So if that is the case, you look for the commonality in all of this. And that's what you focus on. So it's about having interpersonal behavioral skills, about learning to articulate your vision in a different way. If I go to a child and say, ha, 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 even without knowing what it stands for, the kid might actually connect to it just from the sounds of the words. Right? So you express yourself. You have to build that flexibility as an individual and as an organization. And so we have found that just the sheer diversity of people who get involved with us.
Right.
Before this meeting, I was with a professor from the NCBS who studies insects, a scientist. And with these nature-centric exhibits, we're building a 30-foot tall termite hill. And we're going to build another 30-foot tall beehive on campus. And he and his students are very interested in our work. They come see. So, it is very heterogeneous and therefore very rich and therefore potentially very innovative. So you manage that. Sometimes there are challenges, which means it's not everyone's studied at an IIM or an IIT. In fact, there are very few of those. So there's tremendous diversity. And in managing diversity, there's always challenges. But that's the skill you develop of synthesis, integration, and, allowing people to achieve what they want to achieve, provided it fits in with your mission. Give them the opportunity and connect their work to Agastya's mission. That is critical. There's the story of John F. Kennedy when he had announced that America was going to put a man on the moon. Before the end of the 60s, he visited NASA and he happened to see a janitor carrying a broom. And he asked the janitor late in the day, "You're working very hard. What do you do?" And the janitor said, "Mr. President, I'm helping to put a man on the moon."
Right.
So he believed that as a janitor, he was also helping to put a man on the moon. So what you need to do is connect each person that you interact with, their work, with the larger mission. If you can do that, then somebody like a Rekha Jhunjhunwala feels that the Agastya mission is connected to some of her desires and goals in life. The bureaucrat believes Agastya's mission will help him or her do their job better. And the school student feels this is going to potentially liberate her or him and open opportunities in the wider world to them. Same thing with teachers. Even our cleaning ladies and drivers, try to make sure they understand the mission in their own way and they can connect to it. There was a cleaning lady, I tried out the JFK test on her about a year ago, and I asked her what she does. She said, "I clean all the lab equipment and the premises." And I said, "Why do you do what you're doing?" She said, "See, if I do a good job, the Agastya Igniter can teach better and the children will learn better. So she did talk about curiosity and creativity, but she found a connection between her work and Agastya's end goal.
Sure.
Now, if you can achieve that, then that's something that will allow you to build a lot of partnerships, sometimes apparently contradictory partnerships, and still create something. The sum of 2 and 2 is no longer 4, it's 5 or even 22.
Wonderful. That's very nice. Really, thank you for sharing that. I also want to ask you about your funding. So obviously a lot of the work that you do cannot make you self-sustaining because you're constantly spending money. So how do you fund yourself, and what are some of your challenges around funding itself?
Funding is always a challenge. In the early days, we had zero funding. But on reflection, what happened is because of lack of funding, we were forced to think and act in ways we wouldn't have done.
Sure.
Necessity being the mother of invention. We created a lot of transformative programs because we didn't have funding. So funding, while it is essential, it's not always a blessing. Sometimes lack of funding is a blessing in disguise. Abundance makes you poor kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Having said that, a large portion of our funding, perhaps 70%, 75% is corporate CSR. Maybe another 10 to 15% is from individuals, a Rekha Jhunjhunwala or a Ram Shri Ram or a Desh Deshpande, people like that, and others. And the rest is from governments. They contract with us for services. And it's a constant challenge because it's not sustainable in the sense that no one is going to guarantee you money till kingdom come. You have to keep earning that right every year. Although the Rare Family Foundation, which is Jhunjhunwala's foundation, has been with us since 2003. The government of Karnataka has been with us for a similar length of time. But a lot of people, usually it may be within the 3 to 5 or 6 year range, right? Which is fine because people's priorities change and so on. So we have to manage it. And it's a constant challenge, which means you have to promote your work. You have to make your work visible and tangible to people. So take our campus. Anyone who comes to our campus, it's a 2-hour drive from Bangalore. So assuming you can attract somebody there, anyone who comes invariably signs a check. Because they say, my gosh, never seen or experienced anything like this anywhere in the world. Okay? So make it real. But not everyone can come. So we have these mobile science vans. So often if you're sitting in Bombay or Ahmedabad and you said, I want to see what you do, I can have somebody come tomorrow and bring the mobile van to IIM Ahmedabad and show you what we do.
Yeah.
So that is very important, right? Making it visible, tangible.
Concrete, yeah.
Getting some visibility in terms of press coverage and programs and so on. Word of mouth is very powerful. A lot of people just call us and say, we'd like to explore a partnership.
Wonderful.
So that's also very important. And the most important thing in all of this is trust, right? Whether it was Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in the early years of Agastya, he used to say, I look at the crusade and the crusader. This is how I evaluate all investments. Trust is very important. So when you show them what you're doing, the trust element goes up. And especially with governments, they need to be sure that they can trust you to do the right thing and deliver results. So you have to keep people constantly informed, show them what you're doing, have the right metrics, measure your performance, the outcomes and outputs and so on. And like any other organization does, we don't have a shareholder return metric, but it's more of a social return. So we stick to our mission and vision and then develop metrics. We worked with IIM Bangalore years ago to develop some metrics. People see the quality of our partnerships and that also helps them, believe that this is a serious organization that I can trust.
Very nice. So while we're on the question of trust, which I completely resonate with, also, how do you build trust with the communities? Because they are your beneficiaries. And very often, they've had too many people come in and tell them that their life will get fixed, and it doesn't. So how do you build trust around that?
So a couple of things. One is, the key is whether it's an individual or a community, you have to create the aha, ha, ha experience. When we launched our first mobile science van, which was a product of desperation in 2002, a few weeks went by and I asked my guy, how's it going, Balram? And he said, it's been a super success. And I said, really? And I said, why? He said, look, initially they thought I was a medical van or a missionary and they would run away. But when I stopped and brought all these hands-on learning models and experiments made out of coat hangers and so on, it immediately piqued the curiosity of children and community members. And they came to see, ye kya ho raha hai? What is this? And then he got a chance to demonstrate these really interesting science experiments in those years and began to win the support and enthusiasm of the community.
Correct.
So you have to show them something that is really initially it creates that ah and ha-ha. And then slowly you work on the ha-ha, right? So in that sense, we've never had a problem. The next point is we don't go there and ask them for their hard-earned money because it's either funded by a donor or by the government.
Right.
So they're not out of pocket, but they're being out of time. They have to make the time.
Of course.
They see the value of this. Our night school village program, for instance, in terms of trust, we don't bring someone from the outside. We train someone from the village to run the program. So they feel one of their own is involved in this.
Sure.
And with all this, what's important is consistency and commitment. If you come fly by night and you disappear, then people will say, hey, this wasn't for real. I mean, I remember going to a village one night, seeing we have these night community visits, right? And running this program. And most people were very happy, but there was one guy who called me and his legs he was suffering from some disease, massive legs. And he said, all this is fine. Can you solve this problem? And we're not in healthcare at that time in that sense. And I said, honestly, I can't. So he said, then don't waste our time if you can't solve such problems. And I said, on the way back that night, I called one of these ambulance services and said, can you come and, visit the village and do something? So you will encounter people who will say, this isn't solving an important problem.
Sure.
There's no water in the schools. Can you solve it? And there are things you can't solve or your mission doesn't permit you to solve. But for instance, our campus, we do a lot of work for the local community, not just the children, but also the parents. We have a program called Anjani, named Ramesh Mashelkar's mother, that is based on working with parents. So you work with children, you work with school teachers, you work with parents, and then hopefully over time, the messaging is very positive. But you have to work at it continuous. You can't let go.
Yes. That's for sure. That's so true for multiple things in life.
Yes.
Also, just a couple more questions. 50% of your beneficiaries are girls, and you make a special effort to reach out to them. And also a lot of girls get pulled out of school very early. So how do you ensure that they actually get the experience that you want them to have?
So one is wherever we go, let's say the government says, here are 20 schools your mobile science van can visit. And the donor is happy with that particular area because sometimes donors are driven by where their factory is or whatever. Typically, wherever we go, we have found we don't know the community of the children who are attending our classes. It's 30 or 40 children in a classroom. Typically, we have found a kind of 50-50 ratio. Okay. Then what it is, at least at the school level, the girls seem to be as turned on.
Sure.
Many cases more than the boys. Recently did a study in Bodoland in Assam, and it was led by a team of researchers from Texas A&M University on the impact of our mobile science van in terms of achieving our core mission, curiosity, creativity, confidence, and so on. But there are two other results that came out of the study. One was there was a substantial increase in science knowledge, which is intuitive because we teach a lot of science. But the second one was fascinating. It said a complete change in gender perception. Apparently, before the arrival of the mobile science fair, boys' perception of girls was that they're not as deserving of science education as boys. Okay? After the mobile science lab visits, the perception completely changed. And boys said girls are as deserving, if not more, of science education as boys. So,
Thank God.
yeah. So one of the things we do is a lot of our activities are based on group work. We'll organize kids. They could be all girl groups or mixed boy and girl groups. We don't force anything, whatever they feel comfortable with. But because they're all doing things and observing and experimenting, and there's time for questions and so on, the girls become very actively engaged. So there are specific tactics we use in the classroom to engage everyone in the classroom, a time set aside for questioning, all of that. So we have not found it to be some, mountain to climb. In fact, a lot of our case stories we develop, we look for more boys because the girls dominate.
Yes. All right. I wish that continues to be a reality after they go join the workforce.
I remember one of our earliest case stories in 2008. Two girls, Rani and Roja, were sitting under a tree on a hot summer's day, and they began to chat, and Rani asked Roja, why do you feel cool or cooler sitting in the shade of a tree? They say, maybe the leaves and branches protect us. And then the aha question popped out, would different leaves have different cooling effects?
Right.
That led to a science project. And 9 months later, these two girls working with Agastya Ignators won a IRIS Intel Science Award at the national level, competing with the best and brightest kids from across India on the cooling effect of leaves. And one was the daughter of a carpenter, the other is the daughter of a marginal farmer, and one has become a professor in Karnataka University in life science. She did her PhD and all that. So we have thousands of such examples of girls and boys having transformed their lives.
So in a way, you've answered my next question, which was measurement of impact of your work, because now you've been doing it for multiple years. So you have said two things that you've already answered. And if you've more to add, that'd be very nice. One, you've done studies, for example, with the Texas University, or this one where you track the careers of these people. Is there other ways in how you measure impact?
Yeah, there is. With IIM Bangalore, we developed a questionnaire.
Okay.
And it's been kind of improved over the years.
Okay.
Case stories we can administer to 1,000, 2,000, maybe 3,000, 4,000 children a year. But we're reaching 8 million.
Yes.
These questionnaires can be administered to 20, 30, 40, maybe up to 100,000 children.
Yes.
So it's more scalable.
Right.
Now what we're doing in addition to these two things is we have something called a daily assessment in the classroom.
Okay.
Which looks at the state of knowledge for a science concept before the class started and after the class.
Okay.
And that data we are picking up for a couple of million children every year. So these are ways where we have really, so one is about science knowledge, concept knowledge on a daily basis. Then there's curiosity, problem solving, and leadership skills.
Right.
And then there's the more high bandwidth case stories. So together we get a very good picture of what's happening. Now I can tell you, while it's by no means perfect, because measuring curiosity and creativity is different from measuring school grades.
Yes.
Which we don't do.
Yes.
But a lot of people from across the globe have come and seen our work and said, this kind of metrics and measurement that you're doing, curiosity, creativity at this scale, no one has done. So we have an impact measurement and assessment team working with the Texas A&M people. We're now using AI in our measurements. We're creating chatbots for the teachers to become better teachers. So use of AI and so on. Like anything, it's a continuous process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have also had the opportunity to influence national education policy, including through the Prime Minister's National Knowledge Commission, inspired state-level MOUs. Anything you want to please say about that?
No, it's good. I was a member of the Central Advisory Board of Education for a few years, happy to participate in the National Knowledge Commission, and then more recently, the new education policy. So a lot of the people, from both sides of the aisle have either seen Agastya in action because of its scale or heard about it. So I would like to think that over the years we have played a pretty important role in influencing policymakers on the value of experiential learning and the importance of curiosity. When we started Agastya, Arvind Gupta, of course, is a pioneer of this. When we started Agastya, you would hardly see any, it wasn't part of the lexicon, curiosity, creativity. Now, you go to any big city, you'll see hoardings saying my school is number one in curiosity and creativity. Now, whether they are or not is a different matter, but at least they're using this language. So I would like to think we have made some, perhaps even significant, impact on how policymakers and others think about learning and education, the importance of creating joy in learning, being flexible and focusing on questioning. Now with the coming of AI, a lot of people are calling us because they hear that it's important to know how to ask AI questions. So now because of AI, they're coming and saying, hey, maybe there's some important value in what you're doing. So this is true even without AI, but different strokes for different folks. So I would like to think that. One thing we haven't done, which we need to be better at doing, is we have a lot of internal documentation, making it more external reader friendly so that people can replicate what we're doing more easily without having to necessarily consult us.
Right.
So that is a project that is ongoing, where we could do a lot more work.
Wonderful.
So that other NGOs and other organizations and schools can be borrow from whatever we've done, just as we've been borrowing from other people's ideas.
Sure. And that's so important to cascade and to build on each other rather than always inventing the wheel.
Correct.
And that's for sure. Like, I'm sure, a lot of what Rishi Valley did and Krishnamurti did are part of what became your foundation. And hopefully what you have done becomes foundation for a lot of other work. Yeah, for sure. All right. So 25 years or more you've been working on this. Any regrets or any points of time when you felt, wow, why did I do this?
I mean, there are no regrets. But could things have been done better, differently? They could be, yes. I mean, on the positive side, the way Agastya has evolved, at least in terms of reach and scale, is much larger than my original ideas. I never conceived of having mobile vans and labs on motorbikes. That wasn't part of my imaginary world. Mine was a more leveraged model. But these things have turned out to become hallmarks of what Agastya does. So a lot of things have happened that are beyond what I originally thought. Some things that might not have happened, take our campus in Kuppam. I would say it is truly one of a kind in the world. The original idea was to have 5 campuses across India, and that hasn't happened. Okay, and maybe in the early years, if I'd been more aggressive, even getting that land wasn't easy.
Sure.
Perhaps I should have doubled down and gone and got 2 or 3 more potential campus pieces of land across India, and not been satisfied with this, although this itself turned out to be a major thing for us. So perhaps that was a miss. The second is because today it's a lot more difficult. Now, you argued you really need it, but certainly that was a miss. The second thing is, although in the early days of Agastya, I talked about it as being a movement, I think it was built more like an organization. Now, of course, a movement needs an organization. It's a matter of degree.
Right.
But maybe I should have taken a more free-flowing view. But given my own background in an organization, perhaps if I'd been Anna Hazare, I would have looked at it differently. Right?
Yes.
So it's like we actually went and met him and asked him how he would look at broad-basing something like what we're doing. So today we are focusing more on replication, flow versus rigidity, becoming even more open, less worried about proprietary knowledge and stuff like that. Perhaps that could have been embedded into the DNA of Agastya more deeply earlier on. Yeah, we are reaching 8 million kids a year today, which few organizations do. But maybe if we had thought that way more deeply early on and focused on implementing it that way, maybe we would be at 50 million a year today. Okay? So possibly, the people I surrounded myself with were exceptional people, but they all ran large organizations.
Absolutely.
Maybe I should have had somebody like Anna Hazare as part of my advisory group in the early years, in terms of how do you get ideas to disseminate rapidly in a large population.
Yes. Well, I think you've done remarkable work, and there's always more to do and more to go forward. One last question, or rather my last but one question, is on succession. What after Ramji, or who takes over, and have you thought of it?
See, there's no individual per se right now, but we have a fantastic team.
Okay.
That is not to say that one of our board members, for instance, feels that we should not be thinking of one person, but rather of 2 or 3 people.
Right.
Who runs the organization, who run the organization. And they could be a rotation.
Right.
So if we look at that model, I think we have certainly 3-4 people who could be in that group running. Right?
Right.
Now, I asked one of my potential successors a few years ago what he felt I'm doing that which added value. And he had just returned from a course at Harvard where they discussed succession planning. So he said, the value you've added is vision and connectivity and possibly innovation. So vision, connectivity, innovation. And he felt the first 2 were probably not as strong among others in Agastya. So vision and connectivity. Now, what we are trying to do is make it more of an organizational vision, less of a vision that depends on an individual.
Right.
In fact, the reason for building the termite hill is termites, aside from the learning its science and nature and so on, termites exhibit a complex behavior of a self-organizing system. And there are certain tricks they use as a group. There's no one individual driving it. That, is probably genetically hardwired. But one can learn a lot from that. There's concepts of stigmergy, self-organization, how to, build complexity. So they say termites and ants are not smart. But termite colonies and ant colonies are smart.
Right.
So I'm very interested in this, in evolving the Agastya as an organization. So there are very strong people, perhaps a rotational structure. There's this principle of complexity and self-organization. The third element is it may not be logical. Some people may consider it irrational. But Agastya was named after a Maharishi. And one of the things about Agastya the Maharishi is sometimes the most important things happen at the last moment.
Right.
When things seem to be on the verge, failure or collapse. Something comes in and turns the tables. That's one of the natures of Agastya. So while it would be convenient to say so-and-so is the successor, one is this 3-person rotational thing, self-organizing. The third element is that's the nature of Agastya. It's not a corporate. And there are many things we can do that emulate a corporation, but many other things we have done and we do that are very different from a corporation.
Right.
So succession, yes, but it's about the philosophy lasting. The ha philosophy. So when I look at sustainability, whether it is money, people, and so on, my view is the philosophy should be enduring and enduring. If the foundation exists for that, phenomenal. But if that isn't a requirement for it, it doesn't matter. It's more important that the philosophy permeates the system. Perfect. And that's why Agastya exists.
Interesting. Very interesting. And a different take on it. Yes. Interesting. All right. So before we go, maybe there are young people who are listening to this podcast, people who are from colleges like ours or sitting in a Agastya mobile lab. What would be things that you would tell them if they say they want to enter the education and the social impact sector for their lifetimes?
What I would say is, self-awareness is very important. which means you have to constantly explore your own mind and psyche. Now, this is a very strong Indian philosophical trait. Unfortunately, I don't think the education system or even parents encourage this. So a lot of people come out looking to do something with very little idea of what they really want, what they would like to do, why they'd like to do that, what they may be good at. They haven't thought these things through. So you're lurching from pillar to post. So first is start inquiring within your own psyche as you grow older, or observing yourself, because the answers are not going to be easy. Observe yourself in action. What did I like? What didn't I like? Why was that the case? Did I like it because of the money I earned or because of the fun I had, or both, right? So get to learn yourself, about yourself. That's very important, and it's continuous work in progress. That is very important. That involves asking a lot of hard questions and challenging assumptions. The second thing as you do this is experiment. There are some people who might find their niche or passion at a very young age. It becomes natural. But for the majority of us, that's not the case. So experiment to figure out what you like, which means be open to a lot of different stimuli.
Right.
A lot of us are not open to different stimuli because of our condition and because we haven't questioned the condition. So question, open your mind up, open yourself to a lot of stimuli, because then there's a better chance that you'll find something that you otherwise would not have discovered. Open yourself to a lot of stimuli. Then, of course, develop patience. This is something I didn't have, especially in finance and so on. You look for immediate results. And Agastya taught me the value of patience. So if you want to see good results, it's not like taking an exam. In life, things will take time to pan out. You can't predict. You might want to get from point A to B, but the route may be tortuous, winding. So while you have a certain goal, ask yourself, am I enjoying the process of getting to that goal? If you're not, then even when you reach that goal, it might not be satisfying.
Absolutely.
The second thing is, by focusing on the process, you'll find that life is not a straight line, it's a winding path. And rather than it be something that frustrates you, let it be, embrace it. And say, this is fun.
Right.
So embrace, it's easy to say it, ambiguity.
Yes.
Learn to live with more and more uncertainty. It's not an easy thing. That's why you should practice and test yourself. Don't keep looking for closure and certainty, because that doesn't exist. So look at life that way. Then I think whether you decide to be a social entrepreneur or go into the corporate sector or anything, you will be much better. It's developing your capacity to be creatively adaptable. So creative, adaptive intelligence, I think, is the most important skill to have. Build that so that you can deal with any challenge in the social world or any other world. Last, uncertainty and ambiguity means you're building more courage. You need to have a little bit of courage. And when you learn to experiment, slowly take bigger steps, you're building your courage. So courage, and then your capacity to take risk. Not gamble, but to take risk. These are very important qualities.
Correct.
And the risk may not be risk with money. It may be risk with people. It may be risk with ideas.
Sure.
So build those sorts of skills. Experience. Consult a lot of people. You don't have to listen to them, but with an open mind, listen to different ideas and make unusual connections.
Correct.
Picasso used to say that what really got him turned on was making unexpected connections.
Yes.
That is a skill that can be developed, provided you have enough connections to connect.
Right.
So these things, I think, for a young person, they have found, scientific studies have shown that if you develop a personal vision over time, the imaginary world, apparently they tend to do much better. So from a young age, ask yourself, do I have a vision?
Right.
The chances are you'll find there is no vision.
Right.
Then you say, what is a vision? Is the dream a seed of a vision? And begin to populate that dream. Learn to develop a personal vision over time. That can change, but develop that skill. Ask yourself, do you stand for something? Okay? There's this famous thing where a Julius Caesar said about his competitor Pompey, who was a great general. He said, Pompey, he's merely done something. I am for something.
Right.
So is there something that you're for? It may be transforming my village, or it may be anything, teaching, whatever. Ask yourself, what are you for?
Right.
Over time, that clarity might come, and that will give you the energy and passion to persist with what you're doing. Because persistence is very important, not giving up.
Absolutely.
So you have to be for something to keep at it. Otherwise, you'll let go.
Sure. That's so beautiful. Very well said, and I think very meaningful. So thank you, Ramji, for this amazing conversation. And of course, more than that, the work that you have done. We hope we can continue to learn, and you will continue to impact more than 1 million people, millions of students and millions of teachers as you do your work. And we really thank you for the time and the effort and the honesty with which you have shared the entire story with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Neharika. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure.